My name's Jacob, and you are watching Better First Impressions. Today, I'm going to be showing y'all how to make these two planter boxes I've got here. They're going to be made out of cedar wood. They're not going to use any nails in the construction of their assembly, and we're going to fit them all together using Mortise and Tenon Joinery. So why don't we get started? Let's make one of these things today. So before I start building anything, I usually like to sketch it out on some paper and figure out what it's going to look like and how all those pieces of wood are going to go together. After you draw your design and figure out what it's going to look like, I like to pretend like I'm coming up with the measurements. I don't think any of the numbers you see me writing on this paper actually came true in the end, but that's not the point. We just got to figure out how to build it, and we'll figure it out as we go. Next, I'm going to select the wood to use for building these boxes, and as you can see here, I'm planing some wood that I did not use to build these planter boxes. This was actually some wood that my granddad brought me from a cedar tree he cut down and had milled up, but in the end it was not suitable for my project, and I don't think I had enough wood to make them all. So eventually I got some cedar planks from Home Depot. Just some regular fence pickets. And now I'm chopping up these planks down to size, about 12 inches. I'm going to make a little old 12-inch planter box. Next, I'm going to do the same thing for the legs of the planter box. Originally, I was going to make them 16 inches tall. That wound up changing, as you'll see later. And running the legs through the planer. Now it's time to rip the legs down to size. Again, this is where the measurements that I wrote down beforehand were wrong. I was going to make them 2 inches wide. However, the piece of wood that I was cutting, I did not have enough wood after I had already cut it down to 16 inches to actually make them 2 inches wide. So they wound up becoming 1.5 inches wide, which is just fine. Some of these pieces will also become the tenons, which will hold the legs together.
Oh, you want to use some banjo? Alright, how's this thing work?
And here you can see me trying to solve a problem and causing more of them. Turns out my miter saw, the gauge that I was using as a little jig to to make sure all of my wood was cut to the same size. It was not screwed down tight enough, and so it kept moving. After I cut each leg, it got longer and longer. So here you can see me consulting my made up and incorrect plans. And I decided to, well, I accidentally decided to cut these things down to 13 inches. And so that's what I do. This is the part of the project where you go to change out your bandsaw blade for a nice shiny new one so that it will cut real good. Until you realize that you bought the wrong sized bandsaw blade. And so in the end what you do is you just put the old bandsaw blade back on and keep using it, even though it's really dull. Probably unsafe. And here's where I am marking out the tenons with a little template that I made to help me measure and mark. And now I'm cutting those marks out with the bandsaw. And here I'm cutting out the rabbets into the tenons. This is what will hold the side panels. Using a dado stack on the table saw to do this. Not quite wide enough, so I had to make a few passes. And here I am incorrectly marking out where the mortises would go. And now I'm marking where the mortises will actually go. It's okay to mess up when you're working on a project. It's part of learning. And now I'm punching those mortises out with my mortiser. And once again, I was originally planning to use my grandfather's wood, not these cedar planks from Home Depot. Turns out they're not exactly 6 inches wide, so I had to cut a little sliver to make up for that.
Let me just make sure my guitar's tuned right. Oh, it's perfect. Let's get this party started. Just wrangle my strings real quick. There we go.
And I'm still messing with the legs. Here I'm measuring out and cutting what will be the bottom planks of the planter box. Turns out they're going to be 13 inches wide, and they're going to sit on the bottom tenon. And they're just going to sit there so that they can be swapped out and replaced over time. Because even though cedar wood is great, if wet soil is sitting on it, they will probably eventually wear out and need to be replaced. So I decided to make them replaceable.
Feels like I've been hit by a solar flare.
Well, ain't you a part of the body?
And now I'm sanding everything down. Not the best way to sand all your wood, but this is the way I'm doing it today. Make sure to wear a respirator anytime you're doing a lot of sanding. Not good to breathe all that sawdust in. And here I'm just knocking off the edge with a little hand plane. Gives a real nice professional look and feel. And the time we've all been waiting for, the final glue up. Well, I'm gluing up the panels. The box will have to come after the fact because I don't have enough clamps. I had to do all the panels separately and then both boxes separately, so it took a couple days. And you can see I've busted the top out of one of my legs there. I actually busted the top out of 2 legs. So we'll have to fix that later too. And you want to always make sure to clamp stuff up with equal pressure so that nothing comes out all cattywampus.
Does somebody hear a banjo? I think I hear a banjo.
And that's the real beauty of a carpenter square. You don't really have to measure anything. You can just copy and transfer measurements. And we simply cut out those pieces on the bandsaw. I figured the bottom could use some drainage holes for when you water whenever plants are inside of it, so I just freehand a little design onto some planks here. You don't have to be fancy about it. Again, not the most optimal way to sand these. My buddy's borrowing my orbital sander. And now we finally get to take all the clamps off and see how the final box looks. Still messing with those legs. And now we gotta fix the 2 tops that we busted out because we left the wood a little bit too thin at the top of those, and I kind of beat the tar out of them when I was fitting them together, and I broke them. So we're just gonna cut a little puzzle piece out on the bandsaw, stick that in the top of it so you'll never see it, right? And if you do see it, then it's a curious little artist's touch. finally, the best part of the project, getting to finish it up with some oil or some stain. I actually decided to use a clear deck stain for these, and even though it says clear, there is still a little bit of pigment mixed in. But that pigment will help the wood hold its color a little bit longer. These will be out in the sun, which means they'll turn gray really fast if they don't have something to protect from the UV. Anyhow, thanks for watching. See you next time.